I want to start tonight by asking you a question about the nature of silence. When a government refuses to speak, what does that sound like? Does it sound like safety? Does it sound like prudence? Or does it sound like a vault door slamming shut? For the last 40 years, I have worked in and around the law. I have worked with the Constitution. I have argued about the limits of executive power. I thought I understood the machinery of the American system. I thought I knew how the gears of the press ground against the gears of the state. It is a noisy, messy, friction-filled process. It is supposed to be. But what happened this week, what we are witnessing right now at CBS News, is not noise. It is the terrifying sound of a machine being turned off. A major American news network, the network of Murrow and Cronkite, shelved a fully produced, vetted, and approved report about torture. Not harsh interrogations, not uncomfortable conditions. We are talking about the systematic brutalization of human beings who were deported by the United States government. And the only reason, the singular reason, you or I or anyone outside of a locked boardroom in Manhattan knows about this story is because of a glitch, a streaming error in Canada, a server misfire. Think about the fragility of that. The truth about a humanitarian nightmare didn't escape because of a brave executive. It didn't escape because of a court order. It escaped because a computer in Toronto made a mistake. I need to walk you through this story, layer by layer, because this isn't just inside baseball media gossip. This is a forensic crime scene of the First Amendment. This is what happens when the most powerful office in the world creates a climate of fear so thick, so pervasive, that news executives start censoring themselves before a single phone call is even made. Let's look at the crime scene. The piece in question was produced for 60 minutes. Now, you have to understand what 60 minutes represents. In a fragmented media world of TikToks and tweets, 60 minutes is the last giant. It is the gold standard. When that stopwatch ticks, America stops to listen. Their correspondent, Sharon Alfonsi, and her producer, Oriana Zill, did not approach this story lightly. They spent months investigating the Center for the Confinement of Terrorism in El Salvador. They call it CECOT. It sounds bureaucratic, doesn't it? The center. But what Alfonsi found wasn't a center, it was a dungeon. She tracked down men who had been deported by the Trump administration and sent to this place. She sat them down. She vetted their stories. She looked them in the eye. And what they described on camera is the stuff of nightmares. One man described the beatings as never-ending. He described blood slicking the floors. He described the sounds of men screaming in agony, hour after hour, day after day. He described men losing control of their bodily functions, vomiting, urinating on themselves, because the terror and the physical pain were beyond the threshold of human endurance. This isn't just a story about prison conditions. This is a story about the moral culpability of the United States. We deported these men. We sent them there. We washed our hands of them. And the 60 Minutes was about to show the American people the blood on those hands. Now, let's talk about the process. This is crucial because the excuse CBS is using is procedural. They claim the story wasn't ready. I want to explain to you from a legal and institutional perspective what it takes to get a story like this on the air. Investigative journalism at this level is a gauntlet. It is designed to be adversarial. You don't just write a script and air it. You go through screenings. A screening is a high-stress boardroom event. The producers play the footage, the executives watch, the lawyers watch, the standards and practices department, the censors, they watch. They pause the tape every 10 seconds. How do we know this is true? Do we have a document for that? Is this libelous? Can we prove he was there? Most pieces go through 3 of these grueling sessions. If you survive 3, you are bulletproof. You are accurate. You are fair. Sharon Alfonsi's piece went through best 5 NUSP screenings. 5. That means every single concern was raised and answered. Every fact was checked and rechecked. The lawyers signed off. The vice president signed off. By Friday, the episode was locked. It was finished. It was digitally delivered to the servers of affiliate stations to be aired on Sunday night. And then at the 11th hour, literally a day and a half before broadcast, the leadership of CBS News, reportedly led by editor-in-chief Bari Weiss, killed it. She pulled the plug. And the reason given? It didn't push the ball forward. I've spent a lifetime parsing legal arguments and corporate statements. Didn't push the ball forward is not an editorial judgment. It is a euphemism for cowardice. They argued that because Human Rights Watch had issued a report and because newspapers had mentioned the prison, the story wasn't new. This is an intellectually dishonest argument that borders on insulting. There is a fundamental difference between a white paper released by an NGO and a 60 Minutes segment. A white paper is data. A 60 Minutes segment is visceral reality. Reading that torture occurs is one thing. Seeing a man's scarred face while he weeps and describes the smell of his own blood is something else entirely. Television has the power to move public opinion in a way that print does not. It has the power to force Congress to hold hearings. It has the power to shame administrations. And that specific power to shame, to move, to disrupt, is exactly what CBS leadership decided to neutralize. Why? Let's look at the timeline. It tells a story darker than any prison cell. Just days before this piece was set to air, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. He attacked 60 Minutes. He threatened the network's broadcast license. He said explicitly, if these are friends, who needs enemies? Now, in a court of law, to prove coercion, you usually need a direct threat. Do this or else. But in the court of public opinion and in the boardrooms of multi-billion-dollar corporations, you don't need a direct order. You just need a climate of fear. This is what lawyers and civil libertarians call the chilling effect. You don't need the president to call the CEO of CBS and say, kill the story. All you need is for the CEO to look at the stock price, to look at the pending mergers, to look at the regulatory landscape, and then to look at a story that is going to make the president furious. And the CEO thinks, is it worth it? Is this story about deportees in El Salvador worth risking the wrath of the White House? Is it worth the tweets? Is it worth the threats to our license? And quietly, without a single order being given, the decision is made to play it safe, to fold, to capitulate. That is how democracy dies. It doesn't die with a bang. It dies with a risk assessment meeting in a glass office in Manhattan. But here is where the story shifts from a tragedy to a farce, and then to a warning. Because of the global distribution deals that networks have, the file for the episode had already been sent to Canada, to global TV. And when CBS pulled the episode in the US, the automated systems in Canada didn't get the memo fast enough. Or maybe, just maybe, the systems worked exactly as they were supposed to. On Monday, the episode aired on a streaming app in Canada. Sharp-eyed viewers saw it. They realized, wait, this is the banned episode. They hit record. They uploaded it to Reddit, to YouTube, to X. CBS is now frantically issuing takedown notices. They are playing whack-a-mole with the internet, but it's too late. The Streisand effect has taken hold. By trying to suppress the story, they have guaranteed that millions more people will see it than if they had just aired it on Sunday night. And what those millions of people are seeing is damning. They are seeing the testimony of the victims, but they are also seeing something else. They are seeing the ghostly outline of the government veto. This brings me to the hero of this sordid tale, Sharon Alfonsi. In the corporate world, when your bosses kill a project, you take the hit and move on. You want to keep your job. You want to keep your access. Sharon Alfonsi did not do that. She wrote an email to her colleagues that I believe will go down as one of the most important documents in modern journalistic history. She defended her work. But more importantly, she attacked the logic of the censorship. She wrote, "Government silence is a statement, not a veto. If the administration's refusal to participate becomes a valid reason to spike a story, we have effectively handed them a kill switch for any reporting they find inconvenient." I want you to memorize that phrase, the kill switch. The administration refused to comment on the story they stonewalled, and CBS used that refusal as a justification to say the story wasn't balanced or complete. Think about the precedent that sets. If I am a corrupt politician, or a corporate criminal, or a human rights abuser, and I know that CBS has this new policy, my strategy is simple. When 60 Minutes calls, I don't answer. I don't defend myself. I just stay silent. And because I stay silent, the network kills the story. Silence becomes a weapon. Obstruction becomes a shield. If this stands, investigative journalism is dead, because every subject of every investigation will simply refuse to engage, and the networks, terrified of being accused of bias, will fold. We are watching the inversion of the First Amendment. The press was designed to be a check on power, not a stenographer for it. If the White House won't comment, you run the story with an empty chair. You say, "We asked them to explain this torture, and they refused." You let their silence scream. You do not protect them from the consequences of their own quiet. I've been talking to sources inside CBS. The mood there is funereal. Scott Pelley, a man of immense integrity, reportedly spoke out in an internal meeting. Tanya Simon, the executive producer, defended the piece. But there is a deeper, sadder sentiment emerging. One staffer told a reporter that the leak in Canada was the best thing that could have happened. Pause on that. Journalists at one of America's premier news organizations are grateful that a technical glitch leaked their work because they no longer trust their own leadership to publish the truth. They have lost faith in their own institution. And if they have lost faith, why should we keep ours? This is not just about one story about a prison in El Salvador. This is about the ecosystem of information that sustains a free republic. We are living in a time of consolidation. Media companies are owned by billionaires with vast business interests that depend on government goodwill. We are living in a time of polarization where reporting negative news about your side is seen as treason. And we are living in a time where the truth is becoming a luxury item, something we only get by accident. I want you to imagine the men in that prison, the men Sharon Alfonsi interviewed. They took a risk. They sat in that chair in a country with a brutal security state, and they told the truth about the United States. They believed that if they spoke to 60 Minutes, their suffering would matter. They believed that America was still a place where sunlight was the best disinfectant. CBS betrayed that faith. They decided that the comfort of the powerful was more important than the agony of the powerless. But here is the glimmer of hope, faint as it is. The story is out. The glitch happened. The internet is undefeated. You can watch the report right now. You can see the faces CBS wanted to hide. The question is, what do we do now? Do we accept this as the new normal? Do we accept a media landscape where stories are killed based on political calculus? Do we accept access journalism, where maintaining a polite relationship with the White House is more important than telling the public what the White House is actually doing? Or do we demand better? Sharon Alfonsi stood up. She put a target on her back. She risked her career. The Canadian viewers who hit records stood up. They saw something wrong and they acted. Now it is our turn. We need to recognize this for what it is, a warning siren. If they can kill a story this well documented, this vetted, this crucial, what else are they killing? What stories are dying in the dark right now because a producer knows it's not even worth trying to get it past the board? What corruption are we not seeing? What dangers are we not being warned about? I have spent my life believing in the rule of law, but law relies on facts, and facts rely on a press brave enough to dig them up and publish them. If the press folds, the law fails. If the press folds, democracy becomes a pantomime, a show we put on to make ourselves feel better, while the real decisions are made in silence, in the dark, behind closed doors. We cannot rely on glitches to save us. We cannot rely on luck. We need courage. And right now, looking at the leadership of CBS News, courage is in very short supply. I'll be watching what happens next. I'll be watching to see if they reinstate the peace. I'll be watching to see if they apologize. But mostly, I'll be watching to see if we, the American people, care enough to make them pay a price for their silence. Because the silence is spreading. And once it covers everything, it will be too late to scream.